Jó reggelt kívánok! Hogy vagy? Jó? Oh, goodness gracious. My virtual girlfriend the other day asked me if what she said, what do you say at the beginning of your video? What is that? And I say, oh, that's Magyar. And she said, that's what? And I said, that's Magyar. And she said, what is Magyar? I say, Magyar is the language that they speak in Magyarország. And she and and I think about that time she was rethinking this whole virtual this virtual relationship thing we've got going on. But I said, hmm, I said Magyarország is a country. It's Hungary. And Magyar is the language that they speak in Hungary. But anyway, yeah, I got to tell you something. I haven't spoke too much about this at length, but I've been going back and forth almost daily, once a day, twice a day. I've been going back and forth talking with this lovely lady, Savannah, in Brazil, and it's kind of like she just fell out of the sky into my life. She is. Oh, if you ever meet her, if you ever have the chance to meet her in one of my videos or what have you, she's one of those people that you'll instantly adore. I mean, she really is a she's a ray of sunshine in my life, to be quite honest with you. uh I I I'm always taken aback. mm, oh boy. That's really good. I'm always taken aback by how happy she is. She is just really she's one of those happy people. And she always has a good outlook on life. And I don't know. She's got a beautiful home. She has a beautiful home. She has a wonderful son. She teaches English online to Portuguese people. And she's built up a seemingly very nice little business for herself. And she has YouTube videos and what have you. But for whatever reason, like I was telling Carlo yesterday, for whatever reason, she's crazy about me. And you know what? I'm just gonna run with it. I'm not gonna try to question it or figure it out or anything like that. How a woman like her is so interested in a guy like me. But I'm just gonna run with it and see where it takes me. But goodness gracious, is she a delight? She really is. She really is she's really a delight. And she calls me Mr. Hall. That's what she'll call me. She'll call me Mr. Hall, quite endearingly. And I think that's I think that's something with Latin people, because I dated a gal years ago from Mexico, and she used to always call me Mr. Hall as well. But anyway, we'll see what happens with Savannah. I uh, I told her yesterday that maybe we should meet in Canada. You know, if they don't open up the border to Brazil and the United States, maybe we'll meet in Canada. Or the other place we talked about meeting was where was it? Uruguay or Paraguay? I get the two mixed up. You know, Uruguay or Paraguay, one or the other. We talked about we talked about meeting there. But anyway, we will see. That's all. That's all. God knows when, months, years, whatever. But What else is on my mind today? You know, who said you can't time the markets? I woke up this morning. And I saw that the stock market, the Dow, had plummeted, what, 1,800 points or something crazy like that. 1,800 points. And I thought, oh, goodness gracious. Because I had woke up, I think it was Monday morning. I had woke up. Monday morning or Tuesday morning. I woke up and I signed in and I pulled everything out of the market. And it's interesting because when I pulled out of the market, I think I was right at where I was at before all the craziness happened. I think I was. My balance. Hi, Tom. Shavani sounds like a nice lady. That's an understatement. She is a yeah. She is a she's a gem. I just don't want to. I don't want her to meet Skip Smith because I don't want her to even know about Skip Smith, because if she knows about Skip Smith and Skip Smith reaches out to her, you know, he's gonna ruin everything for me. You know how Skip Smith is. He'll just ruin everything for me if Savannah, learns about Skip Smith. But anyway, back to the market. So I pulled out. I pulled out right when the market had come back up, and the market was I don't know. I mean, I have just maxed out my retirement plan. I was 2,000 away from being where. Okay. It's hard to do the live feed with the comments because I want to see what people are saying and what have you. But anyway, when I pulled out, I was right at, I think, within $2,000 above or below, my all-time high with it. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I'm hoping it was a good decision to pull out. I I'm not going to go anywhere with that. But I'm hoping it was a good decision to pull out, and because you never know. I mean, if you don't pull out, you never know what could happen. And oh, goodness gracious, that's a good one. I could just run with that all day long. But I'm not going to go there. I try to keep this. Try to keep this show PG. Okay. But anyway, we will see. We will see. What trying times. You know what? I got another thing that's interesting is that. Another thing that's interesting is that today is the I don't know, 12th, 13th, 14th. Today's the 12th of June. It's the 12th of June, and aside from this being the day that I stepped onto a train in Kecskemét, Hungary. Oh, I don't know how many years ago now, 12 years ago. 12 years ago, on the 12th of June, I stepped onto a train on a Sunday morning in Kecskemét, Hungary. And at the time, I met what I thought was the love of my life, Nori. And I ended up staying in 3 years. I stayed in Hungary. And it was all because I stepped onto a train in Kecskemét, Hungary on June 12th. But here it is, June 12th in 2020. And I find myself in Australia. And as it stands right now, I have a ticket home on Monday, June 15th. I do. I have a ticket leaving Monday, June 15th, and arriving in Fort Myers that same evening. But I got to tell you, I'm gonna pull the trigger again. I'm gonna delay my return. And I got to tell you that I think that I'd be crazy. I think I'd be crazy not to. delay my return. And, I say that because it just doesn't, it just doesn't feel right going home. There's something in my gut, just like pulling out of the stock market, the other morning. There's something in my gut telling me now is not the time to go home. And I could be wrong, I could be wrong, but I don't think so, and it's interesting. It's interesting when I watch the news. I watch the news, I read the news, what have you. I watch the CBS Evening News every night. It's usually a day late, but I watch the CBS Evening News every night. Sometimes I'll turn on Fox News on my computer. I read the news probably 3 times a day. I'll scan through the headlines, usually on Fox News. I'll scan through the headlines and just to kind of get a feel of what's going on back home. And it's an interesting life observation. An interesting life observation is that a long time ago, I heard a quote that misery loves company. Misery loves company. And no truer is that quote. No truer is that quote. And I'm going to open up a can of worms here probably. No truer is that quote than when it comes to drinkers. Drinkers. People that are drinkers. Problem drinkers. They just all tend to congregate together. They all like to drink together. Misery loves company is every time I walk past a bar and I see the same people there, the same people night after night after night, drinking away and what have you. I think that quote comes to my mind. Misery loves company. But anyway, the other thing that when I don't seek advice very often. If I'm going to get advice, it's usually I have no problem seeking advice when it comes to my profession, my career, my job or whatever. I have no problem whatsoever seeking advice when it comes to people's expertise in relation to what it is I do for a living. Never a problem asking advice. Okay, when it comes to that. But generally speaking, when it comes to life's decisions, there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of. I don't ask for advice all that often. I might ask for advice when it comes to financial matters. I might ask for advice on, that type of stuff. But the generalities of life, I don't tend to ask for advice. I tend to rely on uh, my own gut feelings. I tend to rely on my instinct. I tend to rely on my intelligence, my observation, what have you. And it's interesting with this situation being down here in Australia because I go back and forth. I go back and forth between should I stay or should I go? I think that's a song. I wonder if Carlo has that record. Carlo collects records, by the way. He does. He walks around town and he walks around town and he collects records and he's gotten quite good at it. He's turning a profit on it. But anyway, what was I saying? But but generally speaking, I don't seek advice from people. But in regard to this situation, being here in Australia and should I stay or should I go, I often find myself uh, I often find myself just out of curiosity wanting to know what other people think. And I'll tell you, you know what's interesting is that I don't think that I've met a single Aussie that has said, Tom, you should go home. I don't think I've met one Aussie. I don't think I've spoken to one Aussie that has said, Tom, you probably should go home. It's where you belong. That's your country. Not one. Not one Aussie has told me that. Now, I've talked to several people back home about that same question, should I come home or not? And it's a mix. I'll get a lot of people that are just very quite honest and quite frank. And they say, no, if you can stay down there, stay down there. Just stay down there. If you can stay down there a while longer, just stay down there. You know, so that's probably a good portion of the people that I talk to back home will tell me that. They'll say, if you can stay down there, just stay down there. And then there's the other people who say, oh, don't believe all what you see in the news. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. You know, yeah. That's the news is just making everything seem, you know, out of context and whatever. It's okay back here. You know, then I get those people. And then I get the people that say, you should come home. This is your home. This is where you belong. This is where you should be. And what I've noticed is usually it's those people that give me such advice such as that are usually the most miserable ones. And those are the ones that are probably, you know, those are the ones that want me to come back home so we can be miserable together, so to speak. But anyway, I don't know. I just you know, I look at the news and the people that give me the advice that say it's not that bad, you know, it's okay, it's whatever. Like I was telling somebody the other day, I'm sure there's all types of nice little places that I could go in America in my camper and be removed from a lot of the crap that's going on back there. There's probably no shortage of places. Every day things pop into my head. Like as I was just speaking, I'm thinking to myself, Acadia National Park up in Maine, you know, near the Canadian border. You know, I could take my camper and go up somewhere around Acadia, up in beautiful Maine along the coastline. The summertime would be beautiful there. You know, I'm sure there's all types of little places and communities and whatever where it's not so bad. But the point being is that I don't necessarily want to go back to a society that has the problems that America has. You know, it's all well and good that there might be, you know, a nice little place here or a nice little place there or whatever, but it's the collective whole. It's the collective whole. It's the society that I don't necessarily, I'm not in a hurry to get back to. You remember those of you that have followed me for years, you know there's this guy, John, who has a villa, and I stayed with John. He's a retired dentist. He's got a place down on the beach in LA, and then he's got a place up in the wine country in Central California. A little place called Paso Robles. I know it well. It's a little town. John's villa is just outside of town in Paso Robles, California. That's the place where I stayed with my camper last year. One night coming through on the Harvest Host, that guy that had all the birds and whatever. You might remember I stayed on his property. But you know, some lunatic ambushes a police officer to get him to come out of the police station in this tiny little town, and he's waiting there and he shoots him in the head. You know, I mean, that's the society That's what I'm talking about. That's the society that I'm reluctant to. Wise move. Stocks are a huge gamble right now. You will be happy not only stock come this fall or winter. Yeah. Um, I that's the society. It's a question now. Australia is not perfect, mind you. It's not. Australia is not perfect. It's far from perfect. It's a wonderful place, but they've got their issues too. They're going to have big protests in Sydney this weekend. You know, the country has worked so hard to try to be like, you know, the Kiwis. You know, the Aussies, they're always trying to be like the Kiwis. They are. I don't know what it is about the Kiwis, but the Aussies, I think the Aussies are jealous of the Kiwis for whatever reason. It's kind of fascinating to watch. They won't admit it to you. You know, the Aussies, they won't admit it to you. But the Aussies, they just, oh my gosh, they just envy the Kiwis. It's incredible. But, you know, the Aussies have done all this hard work, you know, with this buckling down and everything of their society. And now you get these protesters that want to go out and protest and what have you. And they're worried, you know, about a second wave. Evening, young man. Hi, Simon. They're uh, they're worried. They're worried that these protests are going to, you know, be detrimental. There's your 50-cent word. They're going to be detrimental to the progress that the country has made insofar as insofar as containing the virus and all that kind of stuff. But so so anyway, I'm going to stay. The patients are running the insane asylum right now. Yes, I think so. I'm going to stay down here. You know, this place right here. This place. I don't know if you can see it. You know, I've got I've got a 2 bedroom apartment with a pool. You know, minutes. I've got a 2 bedroom apartment with TV, with internet, with my little lorikeets. 5 minutes to the city center where there's shopping and restaurants, and 10 minutes from the marina. I'm going to go snorkeling tomorrow at Fly Point, FLYPOINT. Google that, Fly Point, Nelson Bay. But I'm going to go snorkeling tomorrow at high tide at about 1:30 in the afternoon and see all types of cool little creatures under the water, you know? And it's kind of like, why would I come back? I mean, honestly, I mean, why would I go back? So what I'm going to do is this. Hmm. I'm going to change my flight. There's no cost to change my flight. I can change my flight all day long until the end of June. After the end of June, then I have to pay to change my flight. But I'm gonna change my flight to July 1st. Buy myself another 2 weeks. And I'm just gonna stay here. I've got the points. This place is only 5,000 points a night. And it's in paradise. 5,000 points a night, and I have 400,000 points. I don't know what that is. 20, 30. That's like 2 months worth of accommodations here with just my points. And so I'm gonna extend my flight to July 1st, and then I'm gonna play it by ear or whatever. And what I'm waiting for, wise move. See more of Australia. Yeah. So what I'm waiting for, to be quite honest with you, is I want them to open the state borders down here. Right now, I can travel between New South Wales and Victoria. And I've seen a good amount of all of these places. I haven't seen the area south of Sydney, but I've seen a lot of New South Wales, both inland and coastal. And I've seen a lot of Victoria, both inland and coastal. But I haven't made it down to Tasmania yet. Tasmania. You know, the Tasmanian devil. There'll be two of us then there. because people are always calling me, "Oh, you little devil." they're, they're always saying, people always say that to me. They say, "Oh, you little devil." Sometimes they'll call me a little rascal, but there'll be two devils on Tasmania Island. If they can open that border, that would be something to see, Tasmania. And then there's Kangaroo Island over in South Australia. And don't forget Perth. Perth and I think it's Fremantle or something like that, and swimming with the whale sharks. Have you ever seen videos of that? People swimming with these massive, massive whale sharks that are just gentle as my little lorikeets. To do that, and then the possibility of them opening up the border with New Zealand and then going over to New Zealand, and hanging out with all those people that the Aussies are really envious of. If you stayed in Hungary for years, why not stay in Australia for a good amount of time? It's interesting that you say that. Hi, Tom. Do what's best for you. I was in Australia for 5 years. There are good people down there. They will look after you. Take care. Thank you. Thank you very much. I was thinking about that. Another interesting thing, I was walking down to get some lunch yesterday, and I found myself thinking that statistically, the overwhelming majority of people, with the exception of an occasional holiday here or there, the overwhelming majority of people on this planet never really moved more than 50 miles from where they grew up, where they were born. Most people stay usually within about a 50-mile radius of where they were born. And I'm walking down the streets yesterday like I own it. Not like Carlo does. I mean, Carlo walks down the street and he does own the street. People just step aside when Carlo walks down the street. But I'm walking down the street yesterday like I own it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm 56 years old. And I lived in a country like Hungary for 3 years. I had moved out of the United States, out of the country, out of the culture, out of the whatever, and immersed myself in another country, another culture for 3 years. What an opportunity. And then I look at this situation. And in all likelihood, I'm going to be granted a visa to stay here for a year or something like that. Now, I don't know that I will, but to have that opportunity, I heard there was a quote once that success is the ability to take advantage of opportunity. That's what success is. Success is the ability to take advantage of opportunity, and so we will see, as the saying goes. Right now, I need to get on with work. I need to talk to my virtual girlfriend. That's what I call her. I call her my virtual girlfriend, Savannah. Oh, goodness gracious, she's an angel. I told her the other day. I said, I'm gonna marry you. I'm gonna marry you, Savannah. At some point in time, I'm gonna marry you. And anyway, that's wouldn't that be something? And I'll invite you all. You'll all be invited. We'll do a YouTube live. Skip Smith does his Wednesday night live the last Wednesday of every month. He does his Wednesday night live. I'll get married and I'll put it live on YouTube. I'll have different camera angles and everything, all all broadcasting. Oh God, Tom, can I just say you got me into listening to Van Morrison so much. He's really good. Oh, Van Morrison is the best. Into the Mystic. A Zoom wedding. There you go. Boy, Van Morrison. For those of you that haven't listened to Van Morrison, what's interesting about Van Morrison? is I once had a friend of mine who was just a Van Morrison nut. And Van Morrison has been around. Yep, that's all the rage. Um, Van Morrison has been around now for oh, I don't know. He's been around for 30 years, 40 years or something like that. And back in the day, I had a friend who loaned me his Van Morrison collection, something like 30, 40 albums. And I downloaded all these albums. And then I went through listening to these albums and selecting the music I like to make my own best of Van Morrison collection. And what was so fascinating about listening to Van Morrison was you could clearly identify the periods in his life through his music, through his words. I'm assuming, I believe he wrote a lot of those songs. And you can tell when he was younger, a lot of his songs were kind of like, Brown Eyed Girl and fun and all that type of stuff. But as he started getting older and going through the transitions of life, those transitions are so recognizable in his music. And a lot of times people might just listen to those lyrics and they don't think much of it, you know. But but when you consider that his music and his songs are a reflection of a man's life over 40 years, it's fascinating. In the garden, is one of my favorites. The song of becoming born again, of finding God, is just one of my favorites, if not my all-time favorite song, In the Garden. Into the Mystic, uh, Tupelo Honey. Oh, I could go on and on with Van Morrison songs. Just just really, really, Coney Island. Coney Island is just a short little song, but it speaks so much. Coney Island and what have you. So his music is just boy, to sit out in a stay put, going for a bike ride. Catch you later. All right, take care, Mark. All right, wear your helmet. But anyway, so that's about it. How long have I been talking now? I don't know. 33 minutes. Oh, it's time for me to go. I got to get on with the show. So everybody have a good day. All right. Take good care. See you later.